For nearly 2 decades and in more than 40 games set over a time span of 228 years, Activision's Call of Duty and EA's Battlefield have played war games over, well, war games. Together, their seemingly unending arms race for shooter supremacy has sold a combined 500 million copies, and apart, they've repeatedly redefined the shooter genre. One brought giant-scale, all-out warfare to the mainstream, the other brought the mainstream to first-person shooters. They're both titans of the FPS genre, attached at the hip and pit against one another, and 2021 sees the two heavyweights going toe-to-toe again with the launches of Call of Duty Vanguard and Battlefield 2042 just a couple of weeks apart. Join us as we chart the storied battle of these two shooters as they wade through million-dollar lawsuits, high-profile terminations, last-minute developer changes, and bug-riddled launches leading up to the main event of the evening. It's time for Battlefield versus Call of Duty. The 21st century got off to an unusual start for blockbuster shooters. The biggest one around was developed for Mac and played on a console. The most popular one for PC was a mod for a game from 1998, and video games at the time were stored on reflective plastic discs that had less storage space than your watch. In Sweden, a pinball simulation developer called Digital Illusions acquired Refraction Games, the creators of World War II shooter codename Eagle, and together they created Battlefield 1942. With vehicles and large-scale multiplayer, Tribes fans were immediately familiar with what BF 1942 had to offer. But where Tribes 2 offered more futuristic sci-fi warfare, the sort enjoyed by Unreal and Quake fans, Battlefield 1942 took aim at a different time period. Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan had come out a few years earlier, and while it apparently wasn't as good as Shakespeare in Love, according to the Academy, it made quite the impact nonetheless, with games like Medal of Honor and mods like Day of Defeat demonstrating a strong uptick in interest in the era. Elsewhere, a development studio named 2015 Games was already deep in the grip of World War II shooter fever. Hot off a successful outing with Medal of Honor Allied Assault, and tired of working for EA contract to contract, designers Vince Zampella and Jason West and producer Grant Collier started up a small studio named Infinity Ward. Their first game, Call of Duty. A World War II shooter with fast-paced action and fantastic graphics, some said it made your ears flap for joy. It would slowly, by COD standards, spawn a sequel just 2 years later, but the competition was heating up. Battlefield 1942 was a mega hit, and with its popularity came mods. User-created modifications that changed parameters, altered elements, and sometimes rebuilt games from the ground up. The king of the Battlefield mods was Desert Combat, a total conversion that took BF 1942 ahead in time some 50 years into the first Gulf War. DICE saw this popularity and made the obvious choice. They hired mod makers Trauma Studios to do it again, but for a full release. And so came Battlefield 2, a modern shooter that took the Battlefield formula, established in 1942 and honed in Vietnam, and refined it to perfection. New vehicles, new weapons, new roles, Battlefield 2 had it all. And with more than 30 maps, players were spoiled for choice, although most people just wound up at the hotel on Karkand. This was a strong shot to the guts from DICE, but Infinity Ward took it in stride. Call of Duty 2 dropped the same year, it too refining a great formula to perfection. Fantastic single player and even better multiplayer, it stuck with the World War II setting and made it work. But there was a problem. Call of Duty had done so well that Activision wanted more. Activision wanted one Call of Duty every year, and despite its name, Infinity Ward lacked the infinite manpower required to accomplish such a feat. And so entered Treyarch, best known among purveyors of high-quality games for the actually excellent Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer. Treyarch filled a sort of mercenary role at Activision. It made its own games sometimes, but was often called in to help out on other projects, and the other project it was tasked with in 2006 was Call of Duty 3. Call of Duty 3 wasn't as popular as the first two, an early swing and a miss from the franchise as Treyarch found its footing, but Battlefield 2 kept going from strength to strength. DICE capitalized on this momentum by leaping forward in time once again. Battlefield 2142 was set in a futuristic world where the planet was gripped by another ice age. 2142 knocked things up a notch with hover tanks, EMP weapons, and giant titans, mobile bases that each team needed to destroy to win a map. Despite a buggy launch, it was a pretty good game, but most players weren't ready to leave the current era. Many stuck with Battlefield 2. It was almost as if they wanted to keep their warfare modern. Call of Duty 4: Modern Warfare was, in fact, exactly what those players wanted. It was the game, a Hollywood blockbuster action film where you played the lead role. It had charismatic characters and levels with iconic, unforgettable set pieces, and a beloved multiplayer so good it set the standards for what would be years to come. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare propelled the series from first-person shooter to cultural touchstone, and it did this in 2007, the best year gaming had seen since 1998. In a year where we would kindly go from under the sea to fighting Reapers in space, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare had arguably the biggest impact on the industry. Battlefield was floored by Modern Warfare's launch, and when it got back to its feet, its strategy had changed. Battlefield Bad Company and Bad Company 2 marked a shift for DICE in the Battlefield series. First and foremost was the Frostbite engine, its key feature being destructibility across the entirety of a level. Not unheard of in games, but never seen on this scale. And secondly, Bad Company took a page from the Call of Duty playbook by injecting a healthy dose of charisma and charm into its single-player campaign. Also, it had a single-player campaign. Despite buggy launches, all of this was part of their attempts to appeal to the Call of Duty audience while maintaining a strong sense of what Battlefield was about: class-based, all-out warfare, and the blockbuster action possible only in Battlefield. Meanwhile, the Call of Duty machine was in full swing. Every year would see a new Call of Duty. Odd-numbered years were Infinity Wards, while the evens were Treyarch's. 2008's World at War marked Treyarch's first opportunity to go their own way. Treyarch quickly set about establishing a canon universe for its tilts at the windmill and began to flesh out another element we didn't see in IW's games: zombies. There was now a clear delineation between the two teams' games, and while they shared the same engine and same title, as each new Modern Warfare or Black Ops game came out, it looked to many like two different series under the Call of Duty banner. Behind the scenes, however, all was not well for Call of Duty. Growing tensions between Infinity Ward co-founders and Activision management led to Jason West and Vince Zampella leaving. But that's a whole other video. They formed Respawn Entertainment, which several years later would create the hypermobile first-person shooter Titanfall as its first foray into the territory, which was to be published by EA. As things at Infinity Ward imploded, DICE decided inexplicably to eliminate the charm and charisma from the single-player component of Battlefield 3, and the result was bland and forgettable. However, despite a buggy launch and an ignorable campaign, the multiplayer portion of Battlefield 3 was a huge success. The newly debuted Frostbite 2 engine delivered stunning visuals, and deep class-based systems and well-balanced vehicles allowed players to put together highlight reel moments on a match-to-match basis. Call of Duty, meanwhile, was sagging on the ropes. The public exit of many members of the Infinity Ward team left the series scrambling by the time Treyarch had delivered Black Ops 2, but the annual expectations of another Call of Duty remained ever in place. To meet its release schedule, Activision used arcane powers, possibly Element 115, to combine the tattered remains of Infinity Ward with the healthy tissue from Tony Hawk and Guitar Hero developer Neversoft. The Frankenstein's Monster Super Studio, with the help of permanent support team Raven Software, gave the world Call of Duty Ghosts, the video game equivalent of Marshawn Lynch at Super Bowl 49's Media Day.
I'm here so I won't get fined. I'm here so I won't get fined. I'm here so I won't get fined.
Here, Battlefield was poised to strike, and strike it did. Unfortunately, its hit registration issues meant that the strike didn't land as neatly as it should have. Despite a buggy launch, Battlefield 4 blew players away with its gorgeous graphics and high-octane multiplayer action. But networking issues and a lackluster single-player campaign meant the game wasn't really worth playing until well after launch. Battlefield 4 launched in 2013, but by March 2014 it was still too broken to play for many. And there was a new shooter darling to dote on, as Respawn Entertainment's hypermobile COD-style shooter Titanfall launched to wide acclaim. 2014's Call of Duty was Advanced Warfare, the first from Sledgehammer Games, the third studio in a trio of developers now working on Call of Duty's annual releases. It drew a lot of praise for radically altering the series. Exoskeletons took the already superhuman soldiers of Call of Duty and made them hypermobile in ways that were, well, actually pretty similar to another game released that year. By the end of 2014, Battlefield 4 was in a good place, but the machine never stops. It never stops. Which meant in March 2015, Visceral Games, not DICE, gave the world Battlefield Hardline. For the first time, the series stopped glorifying the military-industrial complex and instead propped up the prison-industrial complex by shifting the focus to cops versus robbers. Visceral, a studio with an incredible history of fantastic single-player games, delivered Battlefield's best ever single-player campaign. Sadly, that is not and never has been why people buy Battlefield games, and though it sold well in its launch year, Hardline didn't come close to what the last couple entries had delivered. Treyarch, which had for years played second fiddle to Infinity Ward, found themselves with the advantage, and they weren't about to blow it. Black Ops 3 had it all: a radical large-scale single-player campaign, full cooperative play, the biggest zombies mode ever, and a multiplayer that evolved the hyper-speed of Advanced Warfare to sate the series' Titanfallic fixation, with wall running, double jumping, speed sliding, and more. When Infinite Warfare was released a year later, playing like a cover band version of Black Ops 3, it was clear Treyarch was now firmly holding the reins of the Call of Duty franchise, and it was a franchise in good hands. The Battlefield series, meanwhile, decided to go back to basics, which apparently meant going back to a time when people died of ptomaine poisoning and blamed it on ghosts. Battlefield 1, yes, that was the title, though technically the 15th entry in the series, took players back 100 years to the First World War. Somehow, against all odds, it was a huge success. Despite a buggy launch, by delivering great maps and good class-based gameplay, Battlefield 1 got the series back on track, and this heavy blow dropped Call of Duty to its knees. The slow-firing weapons and lo-fi environments meant BF1 was the absolute opposite of the cybertech aesthetic dominating shooters at the time, which could only mean one thing: the wheel of time turns, and we find ourselves in World War II once more, back where we started with Sledgehammer Games' Call of Duty Ww2. An entertaining run, it did away with the hyperspeed, futuristic super soldiers and returned the series to its roots, albeit roots with Treyarch's now standard Zombies mode in place. Naturally, the follow-up to Battlefield 1 was Battlefield 5, because nobody knows what the numbers mean, Mason. A World War II game, Battlefield 5 built on what BF1 did well: great maps and good class-based gameplay that emphasized playing the objective, and despite a buggy launch, it would eventually become a popular addition to the storied franchise. Still, it wasn't a complete success. While our two constant combatants had duked it out, a new evil had emerged. Battle Royale modes were a smash hit, and every game did its best to create a version of the mode for their game. Battlefield was no exception, introducing Firestorm 5 months after BF5 had launched. Unfortunately, thanks to broken matchmaking and a high barrier to entry, Firestorm died out within a fortnight. Call of Duty's Battle Royale efforts, on the other hand, were roaring successes. Treyarch, having nearly fully absorbed Beenox by now, abandoned the World War II theme for Black Ops 4, thrusting us back into the near future. But that wasn't all it abandoned. Launching without a single-player campaign, Black Ops 4 had just 3 modes: multiplayer, zombies, and blackout, team's attempt at Battle Royale. The Zombies mode was massive, but it had unlikable characters, and even by COD Zombies standards, it was confusing. The multiplayer, a well-honed implement by now, was fine, aside from some claustrophobic map design, but Blackout took the Battle Royale formula and gave it the big-budget blockbuster bombast that fans of the mode had been dreaming of, and things only got better from there. Call of Duty Warzone, a free-to-play addition to Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which is not to be confused with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare or Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered, saw the franchise nail the last-person standing mode. With the ability to buy back dead teammates or fight your way through the gulag to get back in the game, Warzone alleviated a key problem other titles ran into. And by iterating on the standalone title with the still annual Call of Duty releases to follow, Warzone has enjoyed one of the longest shelf lives of any game in the series. And thus we arrive at the modern era. Battlefield 2042 won't have a Battle Royale mode, but it's trying to get a head start on the next big thing through its PvEVP mode, Hazard Zone. And Call of Duty Vanguard is taking us back to World War II again, which means Call of Duty Warzone can look forward to another massive shakeup to its map and balancing. Charting the course of these two mighty franchises shows that Battlefield vs. Call of Duty is, at the end of the day, more sibling rivalry than bitter fight to the death. A chess match between two greats, each trading pieces and winning small victories, but more often than not, seeing games end in a draw. They are the two great houses of the multiplayer shooter empire, maybe the only two great houses left, dynasties of ancient heritage and grand vision, destined to hold fast the stewardship of the first-person shooter zeitgeist. Over both series' history, we've seen a willingness to bend the wills of the public, neither breaking from the tenets at the core of their respective beings. Just as they will never overthrow one another, no game has the deep nostalgic ties needed to ever really usurp either of them. Well, no game except one. For more, check out our deep dive on how Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War was made from home during a pandemic, or check out our breakdown of every Battlefield review ever. And for regular updates on the future games of both these series, you're already in the right place, IGN.